set you up.
So what we're seeing here is the E3 demo, which is Atlantis. Kratos is on his way head first into another big epic adventure, and we're just showing one of the kind of beginning parts of the game here.
All right, so is this intentionally supposed to look like the beginning of God of War 1, kind of on the flooded ship of sorts?
It's funny that you say that because it is an homage to actually something that we love, which is the first game. The first game is the reason why we got into doing God of War, and it's very much of an homage to God of War 1.
Yeah, as you'll see, like it starts you kind of this familiar, like you're saying, surrounding. You feel a little bit almost comfortable, like I've kind of seen this before, and then really quickly we just flip the whole thing upside down on you, and you'll see that it just kind of it's not what you're expecting it to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Although it is, I mean, from what I played, it is kind of set up like every God of War demo has been, where you get the teases of the boss, and then you get like 3 or 4 of those, and then eventually you get right before the final phase of the boss, and then it cuts you off. But so, like, I guess what are you trying to do different that we're seeing here?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's like a way to build up to the reveal of the boss, and we're definitely doing that, just like you described. What we're doing a little bit differently in this one is actually we're trying to go in there and bring in some of the more kind of up close and personal action that the previous game didn't have. So, like what you're seeing right here, Kratos can take guys down to the ground, and it's just over the top, in your face, beat him up, rip the guy in half type of action. At the same time, there's this bigger thing going on outside. So I think the layering of it is something that we're really happy with for this game.
And so this is one of the new moves, like the Hyperion Charge, I think it's called.
That's right, yeah.
Where you basically dash after a guy and tackle him, and then you have different options.
Right,
You have options to like kill him. You have options to throw him.
Yeah, you can mix it up. I mean, there's different risk and reward too. Like the jab move will actually, if you stay on the guy long enough, you'll have a chance to get like a health orb out of him. Whereas the triangle move is actually like a heavy attack that doesn't AOE, so you can wait for incoming enemies who are going to try to hit you while you're on top of the guy, and you can blast them back with that. Or like you were saying, you can pick them up and throw them at other guys by targeting.
The one important thing actually, and especially with what you've seen from the get-go from the beginning of the game, it's packed with stuff moment to moment. That's one of the things actually that really differentiates this game to everything that we've done in the past. It's just that it keeps going.
So you're not just going to end up kind of in a big combat room for 20 minutes.
Exactly.
You want to kind of add the tentacles and everything else.
I mean, that's
Do you
actually
call them tentacles actually, or
they're
is that just
tentacles.
my term? Okay.
Yeah, you can call them tentacles. I mean, that's what they are.
Tentacles.
But I mean, that's actually also one of the biggest challenges of working on this particular game. I mean, Ghost of
Especially gods, there's not that many. But at the same time, there's such a huge diversity of enemies that you can fight that this was the perfect setting, especially since it starts at Atlantis.
All right, so this is kind of the first phase where you're actually fighting him. You're not just, or her. Sorry. You're not just kind of hacking away at the tentacles. So basically, if I remember correctly, this is one of those things where you think you can climb up to the right, but then every time you try, he knocks you back down.
Right. Yeah, this boss, we wanted to start out the game with a boss that had a little bit of a puzzle element built into it. So, in addition to the regular kind of phases and patterns that you got to figure out in any type of boss battle, there's also this little bit of like, what is that thing over there on the right-hand side? When am I supposed to use it? And as you're going to see here, I'm sure the person who's playing this footage here is going to solve it just perfectly. So, spoiler.
So that's another new enemy, right? The spider.
Right. So these are basically the spawn of Scylla. So. Again, she's female, so these are her babies that come out of her. So, like we were talking about in the beginning, like some of the things that you see on the ship earlier was the tentacles, and then you see these other creatures that start crawling on the ship, and you're like, where does all this come from? And then here you find out it all gets put back together.
Since the beginning of the game, also the diversity is definitely there. We started off actually with an enemy that never appeared in God of War before, which was the what do you call this? Atlantis, the Poseidon's kind of soldiers,
right?
And
the Triton soldiers.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess instead of the story timing for people,
still in a tortured state, there's still something, and we see that actually when we start God of War 2. There was something that ticked him off. There's something that basically got him to the point where he literally, decided to go after the gods, and that's where we pick up Kratos here. It's really try to understand everything that actually happened and answer a lot of questions that are thereafter.
So what's the justification this time for taking away all your stuff at the beginning? There's got to be one.
Well, there's
the explanation.
Why you ask that?
Just because?
Just because. Is that good enough?
Sure. But okay, so we are going to come up on one of the magics, right?
Right. Yeah, we're about to actually see the first magic that we're showing at the demo.
You get the Poseidon.
Yeah, the Eye of Atlantis is a relic that is one of Poseidon's many treasures, and you're going to see in a second here that it harnesses the power of Atlantis, and it basically unleashes the full power of like a gigantic lightning storm, and it's all kind of wrapped up in this cool kind of gold ornamented, almost like a pearlescent eye, and similar to the lightning that we know that Poseidon gave to Kratos in God of War 1, we know that being the god of the seas and storm, this powerful magic is actually really awesome death, so you can see them actually start convulsing and shaking. It's cool.
Okay, so then it's basically just a stream of lightning, right?
Right. Well,
It's a
level
targeted-
1 is.
yeah, level one is.
Yeah.
You just have to
okay.
wait and see what the
There's
rest
growth.
Does it become like the air attack in the first game? Where you're floating?
I actually think I'm not going to reveal exactly what it becomes, but I actually think kind of what it becomes is more fun.
Yeah, it does. Actually, it definitely gets better actually with upgrades.
There's
Okay.
a shock death.
Yeah. And you can see, from the enemies, the way they die.
So that enemy, that's the spear that you have as well, right?
No, those guys
No.
have tridents, kind of like
okay.
traditional Poseidon.
Is the spear in this footage? Do you know?
Yes, it,
Okay.
it should be. I think.
I think so. I think it's not till
believe it is.
after this when
Yeah,
he's up in
you-
the balcony.
All right, we'll come back to that.
Sure.
So then, essentially, what are you doing when this game kicks off? Like, this is, I assume, right at the beginning of the game, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're on your way to Atlantis, and there's a movie in the beginning that explains exactly what his initial quest is, and pretty soon we realize that there's actually something much bigger going on that he finds out, and then he's driven in another direction.
And the grappling point is new for you.
Yeah, we
guys
brought that
anyway.
back. It's for us it's new.
Yeah.
People I'm sure who played God of War have seen it before. It's we love getting around with the grappling hook, and it was something that we just didn't have time for.
Okay,
in the
so
last
there's
there it is.
There you go. Yeah. And and not only the grappling hook, but that's actually one of the things that was a big push on this game, which was when we finished the first one, there was a lot of ideas that we didn't get in, and there's also a lot of things that we could have done that got done in this game. As far as navigation goes, there's very much of
up like higher than you normally could to the next ledge, and then you can slide down that ramp earlier. But I'm getting ahead of the okay, so another thing I noticed in the quick time events, or the call them context sensitive events, where just the icons appear on the side of the screen at the top instead of right in the middle.
Right.
Like God of War.
Yeah, that was something actually people were kind of split on in the beginning when we started contemplating whether we should adopt that system. But I think a lot of us felt very strongly that that was the right way to go with it. I mean, we want you focused on the action.
Alright. Did you consider anything with this game that's just going to be like crazy different, like just getting rid of those altogether?
No, I mean it's part of the franchise. I think people come to expect them, and they know how to do them, and they're familiar with it. Newcomers, I don't think are going to have a hard time with them. So we never really contemplated removing them in any sort of way.
Was that your quote on the first game where it's like, oh yeah, we thought about for like half an hour making a 2D version, and then like it just got blown out of proportion everywhere?
No, actually, what happened was I think the first pitch that we had with Sony, or actually when we brought up the how about we do a God of War for Sony, it was interesting. The first conversations was kind of going, what could we do, what would be nice to do.
We were getting to the end of the demo, but then just also like with the graphics thing, have you seen the 3DS? Like, are you kind of worried that people are going to expect more from a handheld platform now visually?
I'm not really worried. I think actually it gives people choice and incentive to try to push games further than they are. I mean, I think as we evolve handheld platforms, I think it pushes the rest of us as developers to make sure that what we're doing on the consoles is relevant and gives people the kind of experience that they want. So I think from a competitive standpoint, it doesn't really worry me in terms of like I feel threatened by it, but actually gives me more kind of hope and reason to think that handheld gaming is something that will continue to evolve and people will be interested in it for a long time to come.
And beyond that, I mean, again, if you think of handheld gaming as being a separate type of game, then yeah, I think like
Right, coming from Sparta, I mean, Kratos being a Spartan general, we went basically back to his roots and said, well, iconography for Spartan warriors is this spear and shield, and we thought, we did some concepts on it, and we modeled these, and he looks pretty awesome with them.
pretty badass.
So
And a
basically you have
projectile
a
weapon.
projectile, and you can walk while walking.
Yeah, exactly. That's the two basic principles behind it. It's kind of two separate modes. Well, actually, there's a third. There's a neutral stance where if you're not holding L for shield mode, you're not holding R for spear. He's got different moves in that one as well. So it's got depth to it. We think that people will be able to get into it pretty easily. It's accessible. I mean, the block thing is pretty straightforward. Moving wall and blocking is also pretty straightforward. There's depth to it.
One of the important things also is that, again, like just like the weapon in the past, like the Gauntlet in Chains of Olympus, the goal was really to build something that was a different type of gameplay that would give the player a different way to play rather than just an extension of what they already know.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you guys